First, examine our attitude towards peace itself. Too many of us think it is impossible. Too many think it is unreal. But that is a dangerous, defeatist belief.
Welcome to WatchMojo, and today we're looking at the most bizarre ways U.S. presidents have met their respective ends.
I can't accomplish a goddamn thing of any human meaning or worth until we cure ourselves of slavery and end this pestilential war.
James A. Garfield, Assassination Complications.
It's said that his last words were a near incoherent plea for pain relief. At the time of his death, Garfield had been president for only 200 days, still the second shortest tenure in history.
Sometimes ambitious delusion goes several steps too far. This is akin to what happened in the case of Charles J. Guiteau, a disgruntled would-be politician who felt that his contributions to Garfield's successful 1880 Republican campaign amounted to far more than they had in reality. On July 2, 1881, Guiteau shot the recently elected President Garfield twice at the 6th Street Railroad Station in Washington, D.C.
Flesh wound on the right arm. Entry wound in the back.
Contemporary medicine, unfortunately, hadn't caught up to embracing antisepsis techniques, and Garfield's gunshot wounds were examined with unwashed, bacteria-ridden hands.
Instead, Bliss just kept on letting more and more dirt and bacteria into the festering hole. At the same time, he cut the injured Garfield's food intake to almost zero and began purging him, pumping the president with quinine, and he vomited his stomach dry.
Unsurprisingly, Garfield died on September 19, 1881, with the general historical consensus being that his wounds weren't necessarily fatal and that his death might have been avoidable. William McKinley, A Lack of X-Rays.
The records of the time talk about, the Secret Service agents and his secretary talking to the pan organizers, keep the line moving. He really likes to meet as many people as he can.
U.S. presidents clearly used to be a lot more confident about going out in public without any kind of security at all. A sociable politician who was known for taking time out of his schedule to speak with his constituents. McKinley was shot at the 1901 Pan American Exposition in Buffalo by anarchist Leon Czolgosz, with whom he was about to shake hands.
And so he began to question that system, right? And used his mind to begin to read, to begin to understand, to develop this political philosophy of anarchism.
The ironic bit of McKinley's untimely death? Matthew D. Mann, McKinley's surgeon, had access to an early X-ray machine but declined to use it. Had he tried it, he might have found the second bullet trapped somewhere in the president's abdomen that led to his passing.
He reaches out and fires the 2 shots. McKinley knows he's wounded. He reaches under his coat. He sees the blood on his fingertips. But it's not, it's a small caliber revolver. McKinley's not hurled to the ground by the impact.
Zachary Taylor, binge eating, kinda.
He died of what was called cholera morbus, which was really a severe attack of gastroenteritis.
Take it from the relatively obscure 12th president of the United States. Milk and cherries make for a lethal summertime snack. Taylor chowed down on large amounts of both while at an event overseeing the construction of the Washington Monument in July 1850.
Conspiracy theories arose suggesting he was actually poisoned, making him our first assassinated president. In 1991, Taylor's body was exhumed and an autopsy for arsenic performed. The test proved negative, and Taylor was laid back to rest.
Debate still rages about what exactly happened to Taylor. Even until relatively recently, some believed that Taylor's food had been poisoned, possibly even by Jefferson Davis, President of the Confederate States. However, historians and medical professionals have speculated based on Taylor's exhumed and analyzed remains that sabotage was unlikely, and that the milk and cherries may have spoiled, in addition to primitive medical treatments at the time.
He may have actually recovered from it, but the medical theories and practices of the day pretty much assured his death because they bled him, they purged him, they blistered him.
William Henry Harrison, Self-Inflicted Pneumonia.
Just 31 days into his administration, William Henry Harrison became the first U.S. president to die in office.
9th President Harrison, grandfather of 23rd President Benjamin Harrison and former Ohio senator, holds a special place in the annals of American history. Unfortunately, it's not because of a great achievement like advancements in civil rights. It's because he's notorious for being the shortest tenured president ever, sitting at just 31 days. What went wrong so quickly?
He insisted on speaking on a cold March day with no hat or overcoat. And somehow he caught a cold, and the cold turned to pneumonia.
Some historians attribute it to Harrison's baffling decision to forego adequately warm clothing on March 4, 1841, and deliver the longest ever presidential inauguration speech, clocking in at nearly 9,000 words and 2 hours. Although, it's also been posited that Harrison was suffering from septic shock at the time. At least Harrison managed to eke out one record.
He was an aristocrat, had a college education, and was the only president to study medicine.
George Washington, bloodletting.
Article 2, all about the executive branch. It starts out, the executive power shall be vested in the President of the United States. He writes right next to that, President.
At the tail end of 1799, the first president, the man who couldn't tell a lie, started to come down with a seemingly mild respiratory illness, exhibiting a sore throat and breathing problems. The only possible solution, according to Washington himself, who was not even remotely a medical professional, bloodletting. Used frequently at the time, the practice entailed literally draining the patient's blood, sometimes with leeches, to hopefully expel the ailment troubling them.
And his throat was so inflamed he couldn't get air through it. They thought that if you removed blood, you would reduce the inflammation. So all told, his doctors took out about 80 ounces of blood over 12 hours, which is about 40% of an adult's blood volume.
It may not come as a huge shock to your modern-day ears, then, that this only served to make matters worse, and Washington died on December 14, 1799, only 2 days after his symptoms had first appeared.
There's been many different diagnoses, including peritonsillar abscess and pneumonia, and even epiglottitis, an infection of the epiglottis at the back of the throat from a bacterium so severe that it basically strangles you.
Abraham Lincoln, death by theater. Maybe we should clarify that President Lincoln didn't actually die because of the play he was watching, but you probably knew that already.
Just think of it. For Lincoln, finally, this punishing war has come to an end, and he's able to feel a sense of the country is going to go forward. I've done my part as a leader.
Although speculation persists as to perpetrator John Wilkes Booth's exact motives for assassinating the beloved president, it is generally agreed upon that Booth's animosity stemmed from Lincoln's support for abolishing slavery and providing equal rights to all Americans.
It had been in the newspaper that morning that he would be at the theater that night, and now he had to keep his word to the people who might come to the theater thinking that he would be there.
While Lincoln was obviously not the only president to have been killed in office, Booth was a seasoned actor and was well served by Lincoln's choice to take in a show at Ford's Theater in Washington. Having performed there, he was familiar with the building's architecture and layout, providing him with home field advantage in his diabolical plot.
No American president had been killed in office, and the shock of the assassination was profound. It just unleashed a tremendous outpouring of grief.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. John F. Kennedy, a national tragedy.
Malcolm Kilduff, the assistant press secretary, was filling in for the regular press secretary. And then he had to draw himself up to give the most fateful announcement that a press secretary might have ever had to give.
The most recent subject on our list to have died in office, President Kennedy was seen as a symbol of hope and promise, and his passing caused a national outpouring of grief and mourning. While there are many conspiracy theories about the incident, the simple facts of Kennedy's assassination are shocking enough. While greeting the people of Dallas, the former senator from Massachusetts was shot by a sniper and killed instantly. What made Kennedy's death even more shocking was the fact that it was the first to occur in our highly media-saturated era, allowing the public unprecedented levels of insight into all of the harrowing details of the case.
I will repeat with the greatest regret, 2 priests who were with President Kennedy say he has died of bullet wounds.
What do you think the weirdest way to die is? Let us know in the comments below.
Blood's been spilled to afford us this moment. Now!
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.